I never thought I'd end up here, honestly. My name's Mike, and for the last 10 years I thought I had the perfect little life with Emily. We met in college, got married right after, and everything seemed smooth sailing until it was. At first, there were small signs. She started working late more often, claiming it was just important meetings or a new client, but I could tell something was off. She'd get defensive when I asked about it, brush me off with a bitchy attitude, and suddenly the little things, her secretive texts, the way she'd hide her phone, became more obvious. The real cracks showed up after my combat trauma treatment. I'd gone through a lot, PTSD, flashbacks, the whole mess. When I finally started to recover, I figured the worst was behind me. But Emily, she started acting even more distant, more controlling. She'd criticize me for my nightmares, tell me I was too sensitive, and then suddenly she'd be flaky about sex, not wanting to touch me or making excuses. I chalked it up to stress, honestly. I wasn't exactly feeling 100%, so maybe she was just overwhelmed. Still, I had this nagging feeling that something was wrong, like her mind was somewhere else. It wasn't until I started diving into my own mental firewall, the cognitive barrier I built after my trauma to keep the worst memories locked away, that I got the first real clue. I'd been doing some mental housekeeping, trying to sort out the parts of my mind that still haunted me, when I noticed strange activity in my records. Unauthorized access. I'm talking about what I call my emotional sectors. These are sealed compartments in my mind, encrypted parts where I store my most raw memories about past confrontations, about feelings I'm not ready to face. One night, I was reviewing some logs, just trying to check if I'd missed anything, and I saw it. There was a breach. Someone had hacked into those sealed emotional sectors. Not just that, but it was someone I trusted, someone I thought I knew. My specialist, Dr. Anderson, had been helping me with my trauma, but apparently someone had been accessing those files. And then I saw the name, Emily. She'd been going into my records, my own mind, without permission, breaking through the firewall that I'd carefully built to keep my worst memories locked away. I felt sick, betrayed, in a way I couldn't even explain. I didn't tell her I knew, not yet. Instead, I started paying attention. I watched her, waited for her to slip up. It was crazy the way she'd act innocent, lying with her smirk, denying everything. But I knew better. The signs were there. The late nights, the sudden slip-ups where she'd forget what she'd said, the way her phone always buzzed at odd times when she thought I wasn't looking. I even found receipts, hotel receipts, dinner receipts, things I never knew about. And the texts. Oh God, the texts she'd hide. Flirty, suggestive stuff, telling someone she loved the way he made her feel, how she wanted to feel more alive. I knew then that this wasn't just emotional, this was physical, this was sex. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. My wife, my partner, the woman I trusted with everything, she was cheating on me. With her memory partitioning specialist, no less. Someone who was supposed to help me deal with my trauma, and instead she was sneaking behind my back. The way I found out, a mix of chance and intuition. I'd been trying to access my emotional sectors again, to see if I'd missed anything, when I accidentally triggered a log that showed her accessing my files. It was her username, her IP address. She'd gone in at night after I'd gone to bed. She thought I wouldn't notice. I did. The shock was immediate. I felt this wave of dread and anger crashing over me. How could she do this? How could she betray me like that, invade my privacy, cheat with someone I trusted to help me? I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to think it was just a mistake, some kind of coincidence, but I knew better. The truth was right there, staring me in the face. Emily had been lying all along, spinning her web of bullshit, and I'd been too blind or too scared to see it. I wasn't stupid. I knew what I had to do next. I just didn't know how I was going to face what came after. The minute I realized she'd been sneaking around my mind, literally hacking into my sealed emotional sectors, I felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. It wasn't just the betrayal of infidelity. It was the fact that she'd invaded the most private, protected parts of me. That's not just cheating, that's violating my entire sense of self. I sat there for hours staring at the logs, processing what I'd just uncovered. My wife Emily had been in there, inside my head, accessing memories about my worst confrontations, my fears, and my pain. She knew exactly where my vulnerabilities were, and she'd exploited them. I kept thinking back to that night when I first saw the evidence. I'd been lying in bed, staring at my ceiling, trying to understand how I'd let her get away with it. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't breathe right. I'd always known she was a manipulative bitch. She's the kind who twists everything to her advantage. But this was next level. She lied to me so many times about where she was, what she was doing. She told me she was working late, then I'd find receipts for dinners with some guy, probably this tech guy she was cheating with. The way she'd lie so effortlessly, deny everything, I could see right through her. When I confronted her the first time, she played the innocent victim. "You're just paranoid," she snapped. "I work hard, I deserve some fun, some excitement. You're always so suspicious, like I'm trying to cheat on you." Yeah, I believed her at first. I didn't want to admit that my own wife was cheating, not just emotionally but physically too. I was still trying to process everything from my trauma therapy, trying to keep my head straight, and then she's out there lying, sneaking around. It was like she didn't care about me at all. I remember the night I finally snapped. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, something I rarely do, when I saw the hotel receipts buried deep in my email archive. They were for stays I knew nothing about, with her name on them. I felt this surge of anger so intense I thought I'd throw up. How could she do this? How could she betray me after all I'd been through? That's when I decided I'd had enough. I needed to know the full extent of her lies, so I started digging into the logs from my mental firewall. That's when I saw her access my sealed emotional sectors. It was like a punch to the gut. I saw her IP address pop up in my logs, time-stamped late at night when she supposedly was asleep or working. And then I saw it, her username, her login attempts. She'd been in there, inside my mind, reading everything I'd ever tried to keep hidden. My fear, my shame, my anger, all laid bare for her to see. I realized she didn't just want my body, she wanted my mind, my memories, my secrets. That was the real betrayal. She wanted to control my pain, manipulate my emotions, and use my own history against me. I felt like I was losing my grip. The betrayal was too much. I'd trusted her and she'd exploited that trust for her own pleasure. She'd been with this specialist, this guy, while I was battling my trauma. And she'd lied about everything, told me she was working late, that she was busy. She wasn't busy at all, she was busy cheating, sneaking behind my back into my own head. The thought of her in there, reading my deepest, darkest memories, made me want to break something, or someone. And the worst part, I couldn't confront her right away. I wanted to, desperately, but I had to plan. I needed to understand how deep this went. I had to gather more proof, more details. I didn't want to just blow up at her and get some superficial apology. I wanted her to face what she'd done, what she was doing. I started recording everything I could find on my logs, carefully documenting each breach, each lie, each hidden message she'd sent or received. I knew I needed a solid case before I even looked her in the eyes. My heart was pounding every time I saw her act innocent, calling me paranoid or jealous. I knew better now. I knew she was lying, hiding, cheating, and I was the one who had been naive enough to think we had something real. All this time she'd been playing me, using my own vulnerabilities, my trauma, to get what she wanted. That thought made me sick. I wasn't just betrayed, I was used, and I was starting to realize I might never be able to trust her again. Not really. Not after this. The more I uncovered, the more I realized just how deep her deception went. It wasn't just about some affair. It was about control, manipulation, and a complete erosion of what I thought our marriage was. I started connecting the dots, and every new piece of evidence made my stomach churn. She'd been in my head, yes, but she'd also been eroding my sense of reality. I found messages she'd sent to him, carefully hidden, smuggled in between work emails and casual texts. They described secret plans, meetings, and how she loved the feeling of being desired, of being someone who could get away with all this. I remember the moment I finally looked into her phone. It was late, around 2 a.m. I didn't want to wake her, but I couldn't hold back anymore. I took her phone while she was in the shower, knowing full well I was crossing a line. Hell, I'd already crossed so many lines just by discovering what I had. I opened her messages and saw the proof I'd suspected all along. Her talking about sex with him, explicit details about what they did, how she wanted to try new things, how she loved the thrill of sneaking around. She'd written things she'd never say in front of me, things that made me feel like I didn't even know who she was anymore. When she finally caught me looking, she went ballistic. "What the hell are you doing? Are you spying on me now? You're nothing but a damn paranoid freak," she snapped, her eyes flashing with anger. I just stared at her, feeling my blood boil. I wasn't going to let her gaslight me anymore. I told her everything I knew about her hacking into my mind, her cheating, the lies, all of it. She just sneered and lied some more, claiming she was just having fun, that I was overreacting, that I was making everything up in my head. But I knew better. The emotional toll was suffocating. I felt like I was spiraling, caught between disbelief and rage. Every time I thought about her with him, I saw her face, that sneering, bitchy expression. She'd always been manipulative, but this was cold. She'd lied so many times I wasn't sure who she was anymore. I'd trusted her for a decade. She was supposed to be my partner, my rock, yet she'd been secretly screwing someone else, invading my mind and trying to control my past to justify her actions. I didn't cry, I couldn't. Something in me had shut down. Instead, I just sat there staring at the mess she'd made. I'd never been so betrayed in my life. It felt like every part of my world was crumbling, and I had no idea how to rebuild it. That night, I made a decision. I wouldn't let her keep lying. I wouldn't let her keep manipulating me, not anymore. I had enough evidence. I had enough proof to end this, to finally confront her head on. But what scared me most was the fear that she might try to gaslight me again, tell me I was crazy for suspecting her, that I was losing my mind. That's what she'd always done, twist the truth, make me doubt myself. But I was done doubting. I'd seen too much, known too much. I knew she was lying, cheating, and invading parts of me I never wanted anyone to see. The question was, how do I handle it now? How do I face her, this woman I once loved, who turned into someone so cold, so manipulative? I decided I'd gather everything, every message, every log, every piece of evidence, and then I'd confront her. Not just with anger, but with the truth. She tried to control my mind, my memories, my feelings, and I wouldn't let her get away with it. I owed myself that. I owed myself honesty, even if it hurt like hell, because now I was really starting to understand just how much she'd betrayed me, not just behind my back, but inside my head. And that was a hell of a lot harder to forgive. The morning after I found out everything, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. My mind was racing, trying to piece together what I'd uncovered. I'd collected logs, screenshots, messages, everything I could find. But it wasn't just about the evidence anymore. It was about what I was going to do with it. Every time I looked at her, the urge to confront her grew stronger. Still, I knew I had to be smart. If I just flipped out, she'd deny everything, gaslight me, and I'd be back where I started, trusting nothing. She acted like nothing had changed. That bitchy, smug smile she always had when she thought she was winning. She was way too good at pretending, and I saw right through her. She was on her phone constantly, texting, hiding her screen whenever I looked her way. I knew she was talking to him, probably planning her next move or making excuses. She had that I don't care attitude, like she could just walk all over me, but I wasn't going to let her do that anymore. I decided I'd wait until she came home from work that day. I couldn't do this face to face with her just yet. I needed to prepare. So I sat in our living room going over everything I'd found. It was surreal, how someone I loved could do this to me, invade my mind, manipulate my feelings, and then lie to my face. My hands trembled as I held the phone with all those messages. The betrayal felt so raw I thought I might lose it. Once she got home, she immediately started her usual bitchy attitude, snapping at me, throwing around insults. "What's your problem today, Mike? You're acting like a crazy person. Are you sure you're not the one who's losing it?" I looked her dead in the eyes, cold and steady. I slowly pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshots of her messages, the logs of her hacking into my mind, the receipts. I didn't yell, my voice was calm but firm. "Tell me what the hell this is," I said, laying everything out on the table. Her face twisted, trying to act innocent, but I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. She stammered, trying to deny everything at first, then spun some bullshit about how I was paranoid, how I was making stuff up because I was crazy from my trauma. That made me furious. I'd been through hell, and now I find out she's been playing me for a fool all along. She tried to justify it with some garbage about how she was bored and needed excitement. "It's just sex, Mike. It doesn't mean anything. I was just messing around, no big deal," she said, smirking like she thought I'd buy it, but I didn't. I felt a cold wave of anger and disgust. How could she be so callous? How could she treat what we had, what I thought was real, like it was some trivial game? I saw her try to manipulate me, claiming she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was just confused, that she loved me but needed this thrill. She kept lying, trying to make herself the victim, but I wasn't having it. I told her I knew everything about her cheating, about her invading my mind, and that I was done. Done with her lies, done with her betrayal. I told her I didn't know if I could forgive her, but I'd take some time to think. The worst part, she didn't even look sorry. She just looked annoyed, like I was the one who was crazy for feeling betrayed. That was when it hit me. She wasn't sorry. She was only sorry she got caught. And I realized I had to decide whether I could stay in this marriage knowing what she'd done. Whether I could ever really trust her again, or if this was the end of us. That night I didn't sleep. My mind kept replaying everything, her sneering, her lies, the moment I saw her in my mind, invading my deepest memories. I felt like I'd been robbed, not just of my wife, but of myself. I started questioning everything. Was I even the same person after this? How do you come back from a betrayal like that? The woman I loved, the woman I married, she'd turned into a stranger, someone who used my trauma, my vulnerability against me. And I knew I had a choice. To make, to stay and try to rebuild, or walk away and leave her to deal with her own mess. But one thing was clear, nothing would ever be the same. Trust, once broken, was almost impossible to mend. And I wasn't sure I could live with the idea that the woman I loved had been using my own mind to cheat on me. The thought made my stomach turn every time I thought about it. Still, I was determined to figure out what to do next. I owed myself that much honesty and a chance to heal, even if it meant walking away. The days that followed were a blur. I kept revisiting everything I'd found, trying to piece together how deep this rabbit hole went. I knew I needed a plan, something more than just anger and tears. I couldn't keep spiraling like this, not while she was out there, probably still hiding things or trying to manipulate me further. I decided I had to face her head-on, fully prepared this time, with all my evidence laid out. I also knew I had to decide whether I wanted to save what was left of this marriage or cut ties completely. Betrayal wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about the violation of my mind, my memories, my trust. That was a wound that wouldn't heal easily. One evening I set everything up. I wanted her to see I wasn't backing down, that I knew exactly what she was doing. When she came home, she threw her usual attitude at me, sassy, dismissive, like I was the crazy one. But I was ready. I pulled out my phone, showing her the logs, the messages, the screenshots, everything I'd collected. I didn't yell, I didn't scream. I just laid it all out in front of her, watching her face twist and turn, trying to deny or minimize it, but I was relentless. "You see this?" I asked slowly, voice icy. "This isn't just some innocent mistake. You've been in my head, reading my memories, my deepest fears, and cheating behind my back. You lied about everything. While I was trying to heal, you were sneaking around, screwing some guy you met through my specialist. How do you justify that? How do you sit there and pretend I'm the crazy one?" Her face went red, then white. She tried to lash out, call me paranoid, accuse me of stalking her. "You're overreacting. This isn't real. You're just jealous. Jealous because I don't want to be trapped in some traumatized shell forever," she spat. But I wasn't listening. It was like I'd already made my decision. I told her I was done with the lies, done with her manipulations. I told her I was going to leave and she could go ahead and spin whatever BS she wanted, but I'd seen enough. She started crying, fake tears, I knew. That was her plaything. She was trying to guilt me, make me feel like I was the one wrong for finding out the truth, but I'd had enough. I told her to pack her bags, that I wanted her out of my house, out of my life if she wasn't willing to be honest. And I meant it. I didn't want her near me anymore. Not after what she'd done, not after she'd invaded my privacy, my mind, and my emotions. That night, I watched her leave with a mixture of relief and devastation. Part of me wanted her to feel what I'd felt: betrayal, shame, humiliation. I wanted her to realize what she'd lost, but mostly I just wanted peace. I knew I'd never forget what she did, but I also knew I had to move on, however painful that might be. I started taking steps to rebuild myself, to protect what little sanity I had left. I even scheduled a new session with my specialist to figure out how to seal those emotional sectors even tighter. In the end, I learned something about trust and about myself. No matter how much you try to protect yourself, some betrayals run too deep. The kind that invade your mind, your memories, your soul. I don't think I'll ever fully recover from this, but I know now that I have to put myself first. I have to accept that some people are just not worth the heartbreak. And if anything, this whole nightmare taught me that honesty is the only way forward, even if it hurts like hell. Because at least then I'm no longer living in a false sense of security. I'm awake, and I'm finally free. Looking back, I realize how much I underestimated her. I thought I knew Emily, thought I trusted her completely. But her betrayal shattered all of that. It wasn't just about the sex or the affair. It was about her invading my mind, manipulating my emotions, and treating my trauma like some game she could use for her own pleasure. The worst part is, I still feel the sting of it every day. Trust is gone, replaced by this gnawing awareness that someone I loved had been working against me from within. Since she left, I've been trying to piece myself back together. Therapy helps, though I find myself more guarded now. I don't let people get close the way I used to, and I'm constantly reminding myself that my mind is my sanctuary, something I need to protect fiercely. I've learned the hard way that some betrayals are not just about infidelity, they're about the very fabric of who you are. When someone invades your most private thoughts, they threaten your sense of self. I also realize I've become a lot more cautious, especially about trusting new people. I don't just look at what they say or do, I analyze every motive, every hidden agenda. Because the truth is, betrayal can come from the most unexpected places, sometimes disguised as love or concern. It's a lesson I won't forget. To anyone out there who might find themselves in a similar situation, be vigilant. Your mind, your memories, your feelings, they're your sanctuary. No one has the right to invade that, no matter how charming or convincing they seem. And if you do find yourself betrayed in such a profound way, remember, healing is possible even if it's slow. Take the time to rebuild your sense of self. Trust your instincts and don't be afraid to stand your ground. In the end, I've come to accept that some people are just not meant to stay in your life once they cross that line. I've learned that honesty, no matter how painful, is better than living in a lie. And I've also learned that strength isn't just about fighting back. It's about knowing when to walk away. Because sometimes, the greatest act of self-love is letting go of someone who doesn't value you enough to respect your boundaries. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'm finally starting to find my way back. It's not easy, and the scars will probably stay with me forever. But I'm alive, and I'm free from the illusion that everything was okay. The truth is, I'm finally embracing what I've always known deep down, that my mind, my memories, and my peace are worth fighting for. And no one, not even the woman I loved, can take that away from me again.